So this is lesson 3 in Algebra 1, perimeter and circumference. And that's all we're going to talk about in this lesson is the perimeter and circumference. Now, one of the things that's important to remember is that perimeter and circumference are basically the same thing. It's the distance around. A perimeter has to do with an object that has lines connecting all the parts. So if we had something like this, the perimeter would be if we started here and we walked around this, how far did we go? Circumference has to do with, again, being on a circle though and walking all around, how far did we go? So it's how far we go around the object. So circumference has to do with a circle, and perimeter has to do with some type of polygon, something with sides. Alright, so we're going to look at some of these, and let's go ahead and put some numbers here. And let's put a 3 here, and a 5 here, a 5 here, and a 4 here. Okay, now if you'll notice here, I'm missing some numbers. I'm missing this length, and I'm also missing this length. Okay, so when you're looking at these, realize that if this is 9, then over here, that's also going to be 9. And when it comes to this part right here, the whole thing is 15. This is 4 of that 15, and this is 3 of that 15. So 15 minus this 3 is 12, minus this 4 is 8. So that means this length right there is 8. So again, if I start right here, and I march around this whole thing, I just take my 4 plus 9 plus 15 plus 9 plus 3 plus 5 plus 8 plus 5 until I'm back to my starting point. I add up all those numbers, and that ends up being my perimeter. And if you add all those numbers up, you should get about 58 inches. Circumference, on the other hand, is the distance around, and it's a little bit harder because it's a circle. Alright, we have a couple things to remember. We have a center point of a circle, and then we have a length that goes from the center point to any point on the circle, and that's called the radius. If we go twice the radius, if we go from one point on the circle, let's get a different color here. If I go from one point on the circle, and I go through the center point to another point on the circle, that distance that I have in green is called the diameter. So the circumference, the distance around the circle, has a formula, and it's 2 pi r, or pi times the diameter. So if we know the radius, so for example, if this distance from here to here was 3, then I would put 2 pi, and then for radius I would put a 3, and that would give me 2 times 3 is 6 times pi, and if you remember, pi is 3.14. I would multiply 6 times 3.14 and get 18.42. If I gave you, instead of the radius, if I gave you the diameter, and I said that this whole length here was 12, I would use this formula, 12 times pi, or 12 times 3.14. And I would multiply those and get my answer. So that's the formula, two formulas for circumference, 2 pi r, or pi times the diameter. So for the examples, example 3.2, it gives you the radius of a circle, and it says that it is 3 centimeters. So if we use our circumference equals 2 pi r, we're going to put a 3 in there for the r, and we get 6 pi, and then you can multiply that by 3.14, and you get 18.84. The next one down, example 3.3, is a little bit different because it is telling you the circumference of the circle, is 24. And it wants you to find the radius. Well, we know that the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. We know that the circumference, or c, equals 24, so we're going to replace our c with 24, and we'll put 2 pi r there. Now, if you remember your algebra, if we're trying to get the r by itself, we can, well, first of all, let's multiply 2 times pi. So 24 equals 2 times 3.14, and then we've got our r. And 2 times 3.14 is 6.28. Okay, so we've got that as our algebra problem. Now remember, whenever you're trying to get rid of a number multiplied by what you're looking at, in this case r, if it's multiplied by r, you're going to divide both sides by that number. And that number goes away, and we're left with 24 divided by 6.28, and that gives us an r of 3.82. And we're done. So this one is example 3.4, and it's asking you to find the perimeter. So remember, that means if we were to start here and walk, how far did we go to get back to our starting point? Alright, so one of the things that you want to do is find the measurements of as many pieces of this as we can. Well, if this is 10 from here to here, then this is going to be 10 from there to there. So let's go ahead and put a 10 there. And if we know that the radius of this half circle here is 3 from here to here, that means from here to here is 3, and from here to here is 3. So this whole length here is going to be 6. So I'm going to put a 6 here. Now the only thing I have to do is find out how far it is from there to there. So the distance around a circle, the circumference, so we're going to use our c equals 2 pi r. Alright, but one of the things you got to remember is we've only got half a circle here. So when we get our answer here, we're going to have to take half of it, and that'll be the distance from here up to there. So our circumference is 2 pi times 3, or 6 pi. And if we were to multiply our 6 times 3.14, we would get 18.84. Now that's the circumference of an entire circle. We only have half a circle, so we're going to take half of that and get 9.42. So it's 9.42 from here all the way around to there. So now we just have to add our numbers up. So we'll start here. So we'll take 10 plus 9.42 plus 10 plus 6. So we're going to take all those numbers, we're going to add those up, and we're going to get 35.42. So this one, example 3.5, they're asking you to find the perimeter. They sure didn't give you a whole lot of information here, though, because they're expecting you to find it. So one of the things we need to know is we need to know the distance from here up to here. Well, if I know from here to here is 5, then I know from here to here is 5. So from here to here is 5, and here to here is 5. So this is going to be 10. So that's going to be 10 high. Alright, I also know that this is 6. Here to here is 4. Here to here is 4. So the length from here to here is 8. So 8 plus 6 is 14. So it's 14 from here to here, which means 14 from there to there. Alright, so that's going to help me. So what I'm looking for is I've got this length, got this length, got this length, and what I'm missing is this red part right here, half a circle, and half a circle there. So I'm going to do my circumference equals 2 pi r, and we'll do it for the 4. So c equals 2 pi times my radius is 4. So that equals 8 pi. And you'll multiply that by 3.14. Then we'll find the circumference of that. And again, when you're done, you're going to divide that by 2. You're going to take half of it because we only have a half circle up there. And the same is true right here. We're going to take C equals 2 pi r. So 2 pi times 5, or 10 pi. And then when we're done, we're going to take half of that. And that'll give us the circumference of each one of my half circles. This one and this one. Then I'm going to add 6, 10, and 14 to that, and I will be done.